Danielle Harper was the kind of woman who remembered birthdays, sent thank you notes, and always offered you the last piece of cake. At 26, she was chasing her dream of becoming a registered nurse while working part-time at a local clinic in Raleigh, North Carolina. She lived modestly, carefully budgeting each paycheck and attending night classes with the same determination that had carried her through a rocky childhood. She believed in helping people. That belief would cost her everything. In 2022, rent in Raleigh wasn't getting any cheaper, especially for students. Danielle knew she couldn't afford a one-bedroom on her own, so she posted a roommate listing online, clean, kind, non-smoker, looking for same. $650 per month plus utilities. Quiet neighborhood. That's how she met Kelsey Adams. Kelsey was also in her 20s, newly laid off from a dog grooming shop and in between jobs. At first glance, she was energetic, talkative, and seemed harmless, maybe even sweet. She told Danielle she was getting back on her feet and just needed a little help. Danielle, who had grown up helping to raise her younger siblings, saw someone who reminded her of herself. They moved into a modest 2-bedroom duplex on Mapleview Avenue. Danielle decorated the space with soft colors, motivational quotes, and thrifted furniture. Kelsey brought her dog, an oversized pit lab mix named Diesel, and boxes of mismatched kitchenware. They painted the living room together, ate takeout on the floor, and toasted with box wine. It felt like the start of a friendship. It felt safe. But behind that friendship was a storm neither of them saw coming. 2 months in, the dynamic started shifting. Kelsey didn't have a job. She assured Danielle she was interviewing, but Danielle noticed she rarely left the house. Weeks went by with no job offer, no income, and no contributions to the rent. Danielle, who was barely scraping by, covered the bills to avoid eviction. She gave Kelsey time, then she gave her ultimatums. But what Danielle didn't realize was that Kelsey wasn't just broke, she was unraveling. And instead of asking for real help, she began to view Danielle not as a friend, but as a threat. By late March, the tension inside the duplex could be cut with a knife. Danielle had started sleeping with her bedroom door locked. She told her co-workers that things at home felt off. Kelsey barely spoke to her anymore and would disappear for hours, then return in the middle of the night. The dog barked constantly. Danielle's pantry food was mysteriously disappearing. On 2 occasions, she found her mail open and resealed. One night, Danielle's best friend Tiana came over for dinner. After Kelsey excused herself to her room, Tiana leaned across the table and whispered, "That girl gives me the creeps." Danielle laughed it off. "She's just going through it," she said. But even she didn't believe that anymore. April 17th was a rainy Monday, the kind that made the whole city feel still. Danielle left work early to get ahead on studying for her final exams. She stopped for groceries, picked up a new shower liner, and bought herself a single pink tulip from the bodega near the bus stop. Her texts were normal. She told her sister she'd be home by 6 and asked her to call later. She sent a meme to her group chat. Smiley faces. No signs of distress. She never sent another message. At 6:42 p.m., a neighbor called 911. They reported screaming from the duplex. Then silence. When police arrived 8 minutes later, they found Kelsey on the porch, soaked in rain, barefoot and shaking. Her hands were covered in blood. Inside, Danielle lay crumpled on the kitchen floor. She had been stabbed 7 times. The fatal wound was to her chest. A butcher knife from the shared kitchen counter was still on the floor, smeared in blood. Kelsey didn't run. She didn't deny it, according to the responding officers. She simply looked up and said, "I told her not to kick me out." The investigation was swift. Kelsey confessed to the stabbing during her first interview. She claimed Danielle was abandoning her and said she couldn't take it anymore. But detectives found no signs that Danielle had threatened her. In fact, the opposite was true. Danielle had been trying to help. She had written in her journal just 3 days earlier, "I feel guilty, like I'm giving up on someone who clearly needs help. But it's not my job to fix her. I need peace." She'd even given Kelsey a final deadline, May 1st, to find another place to stay. She planned to move into a studio near her college campus, one she couldn't afford but was determined to make work. Danielle had also started sleeping at friends' places to avoid confrontation. That night, she only came back to grab some of her belongings. She didn't know Kelsey was waiting. The autopsy revealed defensive wounds. Danielle had tried to fight back. The trial, held that fall, was a short one. The prosecution painted a clear picture. Jealousy, resentment, and entitlement turned violent. Danielle had been kind. Kelsey had taken advantage. The defense leaned heavily on Kelsey's mental health. Diagnoses of depression, abandonment issues, and PTSD from a troubled upbringing. They argued she was triggered, not murderous. But it wasn't enough. After only 4 hours of deliberation, the jury returned a guilty verdict. Kelsey Adams was sentenced to 32 years in prison, but justice didn't bring peace. Not to Danielle's family, her classmates, or her co-workers at the clinic who still kept her photo on the break room wall. Danielle's mother, Sheila Harper, spoke at a community forum weeks after the sentencing. Her voice didn't tremble. She looked straight into the camera and said, "If you are living with someone and it feels unsafe, trust your gut. Don't wait for things to get worse." My daughter waited, and now I only have memories. Out of Danielle's tragedy, something remarkable began to grow. Her family, along with Tiana and several classmates, started the Harper House Initiative, a nonprofit offering short-term emergency housing, counseling, and legal aid for students facing hostile living situations. They partner with local colleges, law clinics, and even real estate firms to provide a safety net for those caught in toxic or dangerous rental setups. 1 year after her death, Harper House opened its first transitional shelter. Painted on the wall, just above the entrance, were Danielle's own words from her journal. "I need peace. We all do." The house now provides shelter to over 40 women every year. But her story didn't just end with a building or a plaque. A documentary crew picked up Danielle's story. It aired on a major streaming platform under the series titled Betrayed a Home. Viewers across the country learned her name. Donations poured in. Survivors of roommate violence began to speak out. A topic that was once considered rare and taboo finally received public attention. Danielle's story became more than a tragedy. It became a movement. She was no longer just the woman who was stabbed. She was a sister, a student, a healer, and now, a symbol of what compassion, even in the face of betrayal, looks like. And as for the viewers, those watching right now, know this: sometimes, danger doesn't come in the form of a masked stranger or a dark alley. Sometimes, it sits on the other side of your dinner table. And if this story moved you, even for a moment, then don't let it be just a story. We tell these stories not for shock, but for change. Danielle's life mattered. And the way you choose to carry it forward, by sharing her name, by protecting someone around you, by clicking play on the next story that could spark something in your heart, means her legacy lives on. So if you're still with us, click here for the next true story, one where hope wins, even after darkness. We handpicked it for you. And if you haven't yet, subscribe to join our mission. Your voice helps us tell stories that deserve to be heard.